In this lesson, we will discuss the risks of fulfilled by merchant, especially when dealing with international shipping and product returns. Understanding these risks is very important for beginners because many new sellers focus only on making sales, but they do not fully understand what happens when a customer requests a return. When selling on Amazon using Fulfilled by Merchant, also known as FBM, the seller is responsible for the entire fulfillment process. This means the seller stores the product, ships the order to the customer, manages delivery, and also handles product returns when customers request them. The seller must also provide a valid return address or a return solution that follows Amazon's return policies. However, here is something very important beginners often misunderstand. Even though the seller handles fulfillment, Amazon may still automatically approve certain return requests based on its policies or the return settings in the seller account. In some situations, Amazon may also generate prepaid return labels, depending on the return reason and the rules of that specific marketplace. Even in these situations, the financial responsibility generally still falls on the seller. Now let us look at Amazon's general return policy. In many Amazon marketplaces, customers can return most products within a return window that is typically around 30 days. Amazon may automatically authorize the return request according to its policies, and sellers are expected to follow these rules. If a seller refuses a valid return improperly, the buyer may escalate the issue by filing an A to Z guarantee claim through Amazon. Now let us talk about one of the biggest risks when selling internationally with FBM. Shipping products to foreign countries may sometimes be affordable, especially if the product is lightweight and compact. But bringing that same product back from a foreign country can cost significantly more money. Let us look at a simple example. Imagine you ship a product from the United States to the United Kingdom for $8. If the customer decides to return that product, the return shipping from the United Kingdom back to the United States could cost $25 to $40. In some situations, the return shipping cost can even be higher than the price of the product itself. Because of this situation, many international sellers sometimes choose to issue a refund and allow the customer to keep the product instead of paying expensive international return shipping. This practice is commonly known as a returnless refund. Now let us discuss another aspect of refund handling that beginners should understand. In some Amazon marketplaces, when a product is returned and the item is not in the same condition in which it was originally sent, sellers may issue a partial refund. This is sometimes referred to as a refund deduction. For example, if a product was sold as new but the customer used it and returned it in a used condition, or if accessories or packaging are missing, the seller may reduce the refund amount. In practice, sellers inspect the returned product and determine whether the condition justifies a deduction. For example, if a product originally sold for $100 comes back used, the seller might refund $70 instead of the full amount. However, this must be handled carefully. If the buyer believes the deduction is unfair, they can escalate the issue and file an A to Z guarantee claim with Amazon. If Amazon reviews the case and decides that the deduction was not justified, Amazon may refund the customer fully and charge the seller account. Now, here is another important distinction that beginners should clearly understand. Refund deductions and safety claims are two completely different processes. A refund deduction happens during the refund process itself when the seller reduces the refund amount based on the condition of the returned product. A safety claim, which stands for Seller Assurance for E-commerce Transactions, is used in a different situation. A safety claim is usually filed after Amazon has already refunded the customer and the seller believes the refund was incorrect or unfair. In this situation, the seller requests Amazon to reimburse the seller account. For example, if a customer returns the wrong product, sends back a damaged item that was not originally damaged, or if Amazon automatically refunds the customer even though the seller believes the return was invalid, the seller may file a safety claim and request reimbursement. Another important detail to understand is that refund policies and processes can differ between marketplaces. For example, sellers on Amazon India often notice that partial refund deductions are not commonly available as a built-in option in Seller Central. In many cases on Amazon India, when a buyer applies for a return, the system automatically approves the request. When the buyer clicks Return or Replace Item and selects a valid reason, Amazon usually approves the return automatically, schedules a pickup or drop-off for the product, and processes the refund according to its policies. Because of this automated system, many sellers feel that they have very little control over whether a return is approved. In many Amazon India returns, the refund issued to the buyer is usually the full item price. The refunded amount is deducted directly from the seller's payment account, and this deduction can be seen in the Payments section of Seller Central under Transaction View. Refunds may include the item price, taxes, and in some cases other components such as gift wrap, depending on the order. Shipping refunds may also vary depending on the situation. In addition to the refund amount, sellers may sometimes see additional deductions related to the return process. These may include return shipping fees, refund administration fees, or closing fee adjustments. However, in some situations, Amazon may also refund part of the referral fee after a return is processed. Because of these adjustments, sellers do not always lose every single fee, although the overall financial impact of returns can still be significant. Another important reality is that seller control over returns on Amazon India is more limited compared to some Western marketplaces. Amazon India prioritizes customer trust and frictionless returns, which means many return requests are approved automatically by the system. This is why many sellers feel that the return process is largely controlled by the buyer rather than the seller. Even though the refund may happen automatically, sellers can still take action in certain situations. For example, if the customer returns the wrong item, the seller can contact seller support and report the issue. If the product is returned damaged by the customer, the seller may open a case and provide evidence. If there is suspected return abuse or fraud, the seller can also report the buyer through seller support. However, it is important to understand that reimbursement in these cases is not guaranteed. Another important financial detail is return shipping responsibility. If the return is caused by a seller-related issue such as a defective item, a damaged product, or the wrong item being sent, then the seller is usually responsible for paying the return shipping cost. However, if the return happens because of buyer remorse, such as the customer saying they ordered by mistake or did not like the product, then, depending on the marketplace and seller settings, the customer may sometimes pay the return shipping. Another risk appears when selling expensive products through FBM. If a customer returns a product and it arrives damaged or used, the seller may face a financial loss because the order was fulfilled by the seller, and Amazon did not store or ship the product through its fulfillment network. In many FBM situations, Amazon may not reimburse the seller for damaged returned products. Product selection therefore plays a very important role in managing FBM risks. Products with high volumetric weight or large physical size can create serious challenges when selling globally. Large products increase shipping costs, increase return costs, create customs complications, and increase the risk of product damage during transportation. For this reason, many experienced sellers prefer to sell products that are small, lightweight, durable, and have strong profit margins that can absorb possible return losses. So in this lesson, we developed a clear understanding of the operational and financial risks of Fulfilled by Merchant, especially when dealing with international orders, returns, and refund handling. In the next lesson, we will discuss the benefits of Fulfillment by Amazon and how it can help reduce many of the operational challenges that sellers face.